Hello girls and squirrels, happy Wednesday and welcome back to my channel. So as you guys saw by the title, today is going to be my fall and winter 2021-2022 fashion trends report. That's a tongue twister. I like to do these in fall and winter and spring and summer, and I like to do them a couple of months in advance usually so that you guys can get the jump on these trends. You can start looking for these things in the thrift store and start putting these items in your shops. But I am super late on this because I took a 6-month break from YouTube. But I asked you guys in the last video if you guys still wanted this video, and a lot of you guys said yes. So here I am to give you the rundown on all the fall and winter 2021-2022 fashion trends. So without further ado, let's get started because we have a lot of ground to cover. As you guys know, I like to do these videos in sections. So we're going to start with decades, colors, prints, overall fashion trends, shoes, and accessories. So those are going to be the parts that we're breaking down. I will leave timestamps down below if you want to skip to any of those. All right, so let's talk about the decades that are on trend. First and foremost, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the early 2000s. The early 2000s is the most popular decade right now, especially amongst young people. Fashion tends to do a 20-year cycle, so naturally that means the early 2000s is the hottest trend right now. So those of us who grew up in the early 2000s are cringing. There are some things from the early 2000s that I do love, but most of it never needed to come back, you know? Next on the list, of course, we have 90s. 90s became really popular a few years ago, and it's kind of transitioning into the early 2000s and kind of dying off, but 90s is still a huge trend, so it's definitely something to keep picking up and keep looking out for. Speaking of things trickling out, the 80s has kind of really fizzled out other than like a few pieces, like puff sleeve dresses. Those are still on trend because puff sleeves are really on trend. So certain pieces from the 80s, things with like shoulder pads and like really structured blazers, those are still on trend. But a lot of like the brightly colored like windbreakers and stuff like that have kind of seen a dip. Not saying that they don't sell still, but the 80s kind of seems to be trickling out a little bit. And that leads us to the last decade on the list, which is the 70s. Now the 70s is seeing a huge revival right now, especially in workwear and business casual and streetwear for that kind of mid-millennial generation of adults. All right, so moving on to color trends. The biggest color of the season is absolutely 100% green. Green in every shade, but especially this Kelly green. I've seen this Kelly green absolutely everywhere, and I love this because green is my favorite color, and I'm so excited it's having a moment. And I'm loving, especially when people do an entire like monochromatic green outfit and it's just all different shades of green, but they throw in some like bright greens. I am loving that. So keep an eye out for those green pieces. The greener, the better. Next on the list is lavender and lilac. This is another really big trend right now. We're seeing every shade of purple basically, but especially lavender and lilac. And speaking of color, we have been seeing a ton of bright colors in fall, and especially going into winter. I don't know if you guys have been into a Target lately and seen their clothing collections for the fall and winter, but they are full of bold, bright colors, which is not something we typically think of for fall and winter. And honestly, I'm loving it because I am someone who suffers from seasonal depression, and I don't know why I never thought to wear bright colors or like, you know, fill my life with bright colors during the fall and winter, but it really like affects your mood and kind of brings you up. So I'm very much here for this trend. Speaking of all of those colors, there's a ton of different ways that people are mixing colors into their wardrobes for fall and winter. So one way is to do color clashing. Now this is like pattern mixing where you have two completely different patterns. So the color equivalent to that is called color clashing, where you have, let's say, like a bright yellow top and like a lime green pant. That's extreme, but like that's what color clashing is. And I think it's really fun and funky, and I love that. Another way that people are wearing this trend is to pair it with neutrals. So wearing like a bright colored pant and a bright colored blazer and then pairing it with like neutral accessories, or just wearing a bright top and a very neutral pant, or just wearing like a very neutral outfit and then popping a really vibrant bright colored jacket on top. Love that. It's so good. It just gives a little oomph, and I love it. I love it so much. And like I already talked about with the green, a lot of people are doing monochromatic looks. So monochromatic is where you wear one color for your entire outfit, but it's just different shades of that color. And I love that. I love playing around with the different shades of color. The way they all work together, it just really makes an outfit pop. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. How many times can I say love it? Are you guys taking shots? One more color I actually forgot to mention is brown. We saw brown really become popular in fall and winter of 2020, and it's come back for 2021, and it looks like it's here to stay. So brown is the new black. You heard it here. Pick up those brown pieces. All right, so that leads us into prints. Now, let's get the obvious ones out of the way first. You've got plaid, you've got animal print. Duh. It's always like that. Every fall and winter, plaid and animal print always is a trend. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to some newer trends, which is geometric patterns, especially on jackets and outerwear. These big, bold patterns, especially on outerwear, we're seeing a lot during Fashion Week, and I love it. I love this funky wave of fashion that we have going on. It's kind of uplifting my spirits. It's very nice. So just anything with like a weird, funky geometric pattern. It can be where it looks like paint strokes, or it can be just weird shapes. Anything other than like stripes and polka dots. Keep an eye out for those really funky patterns. The weirder, the better. And like I said, this is really popular with jackets and outerwear. So if you find really bold print jackets, pick them up, because the statement jacket is very on trend right now. And lastly, for prints, we have something a little unexpected for winter. We have florals for fall and winter. Groundbreaking. I had to do it. Okay, so we are seeing a lot of florals for spring and summer. That's how weird this is. We are seeing a lot of florals for fall and winter. Like I said, if you've been in a Target and you've been in the women's clothing, you've seen a lot of florals. You've probably seen this dress. It's drummed up a lot of controversy online. A lot of people are thinking Handmaid's Tale. They're saying this is ugly. This is like Little House on the Prairie. What are we doing? Who is wearing this? I have seen these dresses styled in a way that are actually good though. So don't be mad. A lot of people think they're ugly, but we are seeing these prairie dresses, these florals show up in fashion for fall and winter 2021. All right, so let's get to the big moment, the overall fashion trends. These are in no particular order. These are just ones that I've written down, and it's a big list, so let's get to it. First off, we have head-to-toe denim. This has been seen a lot in denim dresses. Head-to-toe denim, the Canadian tuxedo, we're loving it. Denim is just classic too. So this is one of those trends that you don't have to really worry about going out of style, because denim is just kind of a classic piece, and it's, in my opinion, always in style. Next, we have kind of an obvious one, which is knitwear. That's sweaters, anything knit. We know that it's fall and winter, obviously. But one big trend I've been seeing a lot is knit maxi dresses. Now, this may be a little hard to find in thrift stores when you're sourcing, but it is something to keep an eye out for. If you do come across a maxi knit dress, it is on trend, so definitely pick it up. Speaking of dresses, we have the prairie dress. Now for fall and winter, these are more like the mock neck dresses with the puff sleeves, and they've got like the ruffle at the bottom, very much like the ones that they're selling at Target. Again, a lot of people think these are ugly, but it's from the 70s. It is a 70s trend. It did come up in the 90s as well, and now it's coming back again. We saw a lot of prairie dresses in spring and summer, so I can't say that I'm surprised it's here for fall and winter as well. Next on the list, we have oversized sweaters, which is kind of an obvious. We all love sweaters. We just want to be cozy. Next, we have fringe, which ties into that like 70s glam meets like Western vibe. That is a huge trend right now, the 70s glam and the Western. So fringe is kind of a way to do both. I've been seeing a lot of outerwear specifically with fringe, and also boots with fringe. Next on the list, we have leopard coats. Now these kind of went out for a while. They were a trend a few years ago and they kind of lost popularity, but now they are back, especially with the early 2000s being such a huge thing. The leopard furry coat is back, which I can't say that I'm mad about. That is an early 2000s trend that I'm actually okay with. All right, next on the list, we have another groundbreaking one, leggings. And you might be thinking to yourself, Christina, when did leggings ever go out of style? Well, they really didn't, but if you think about it, they were huge in the early 2000s and also in like the 70s and 80s. The leggings I'm talking about that I've been seeing a lot are stirrup leggings, which is very 80s. I mean, honestly, I'm here for it because it does help keep the leggings in your boots. You know what I mean? Like, it is functional, so I'm not mad about it. This is another one of those things that may be hard to find at the thrift store, but you never know, so keep an eye out for those, as well as just really thick, nice quality leggings that will keep you warm in the winter. Yeah, but leggings are making a comeback, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about back in spring and summer. Now that we're kind of like coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people are prioritizing comfort more than they were in the past, so that's why we're seeing a lot of these like casual kind of loungewear pieces come into fashion mixed with more business casual items like blazers or even like heels and like nice accessories. So that's what I mean by leggings are making a comeback. No, they didn't go anywhere, but yes, people are wearing them a lot more when it comes to dressing up. Next on the list, we have a really big trend, which is the shirt jacket. It's self-explanatory. It is basically just like a really thick flannel. It's like a shirt style, but it's the thickness and heaviness of a jacket. And online, people are calling this a shacket. So if you type shacket into Pinterest, these will pop up. That's a good keyword to use in your listing. A lot of people are looking for these, so definitely keep an eye out for them. Next on the list, we have sweater vests. Sweater vests have been a trend for about a year, going on 2 years now, and they don't seem to be going anywhere. People are using sweater vests pretty much in every style and every aesthetic. It's just kind of a really good staple piece to have for any genre of fashion. So sweater vests are very trendy right now. Another trend showing up a lot is sequins. Now sequins always tend to come back, especially in the winter season around like the holidays, but this time it's very 20s and 80s. If you're in a thrift store a lot like me, you see these types of dresses all the time. This is an 80s does 20s style dress. So these are really popular right now. Even like the tops in the 80s, they had a lot of separates. So usually I'll find the tops. I don't usually find the pants or the skirts, but the tops I come across a lot. So if you come across those, they fetch a pretty penny and they are on trend, as well as anything satin, anything shiny, anything that kind of reminds you of like Studio 54, just like that 70s, 80s glam icon, as Beth Jones would say. We already talked about knits, but let's talk about a specific style of knit, and this is the Fair Isle style knit. So it looks like this. It's very cabiny, it's very like British countryside. It's just this beautiful kind of cozy print. I find these sweaters actually a lot in the thrift store, so if you do come across them, definitely pick them up. Bonus points if they're vintage. Next, we have capes and ponchos. Now, capes and ponchos have been an on again, off again trend, but they're really starting to make a comeback this season. Again, I think this is that mindset of we just want to be comfortable now. Also, ponchos were very popular in the early 2000s, so that's another reason that I'm thinking this is making a comeback. But let me know down in the comments below, do you love capes and ponchos? It's kind of like wearing a big blanket, so what's not to like about it, you know? We're seeing a lot of sheer layering and also crochet and macrame layers. So like a sweater vest, but it's crocheted or it's macrameed even. We saw a lot of macrame and street style. Now this is something that you would probably have to hand make if anyone's crafty and wants to make some of these. It may be hard to find in the thrift store, but anything that's just kind of like sheer or it's like a really loose open knit, definitely pick it up because those pieces do make good layering pieces for fall and winter. Which leads us to cutouts. Now cutouts have kind of always been a trend, and I've been seeing them emerge more in the past couple years, but they're really amping up now, and it looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. Can some people pull this off? Yes, I'm not hating on it. You do you, boo-boo. Fashion is whatever you want it to be. I personally will not be participating, but this is one of those things that if you like to upcycle items from the thrift store, like say you find like a polo with a bunch of stains on it, this could be a good way to remedy that and still sell it. You know what I mean? Like I crop things all the time. So this is one of those things where you could easily DIY it. We saw that with like the tie-dyeing where everybody was tie-dyeing everything. Well, now there's holes in everything. So, you know, as the saying goes, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, if you find a few stains in your shirt, just make Swiss cheese. Okay, moving on. Next, we have puffer coats and ski. Any type of coat that's like dramatic and puffy, any vest that's dramatic and puffy, pants, even the ski pants, those are on trend as well, but specifically in very pretty colors. So if you see one that's like a really pretty purple or like a really pretty green or like a light powdery blue, colors like that are really trending in puffer coats. Next, we have cropped basically everything, but especially cropped jackets and cropped sweaters, obviously because it's winter, and obviously tops as well. The cropped trend is not really going anywhere anytime soon, but we are seeing a rise in cropped cardigans and cropped jackets. Again, this is a nod to the early 2000s. We had those little short jean jackets. Lord help us. We had those little, you know what I'm talking about. They had like, it was just basically like an oval piece of fabric with two armholes. I will put a picture. I probably can find a picture of myself with one on, but it was just like a little shoulder, and it was just like a little crop moment. I'm feeling traumatized. I need to call my therapist. We're not that extreme yet. I feel like it's coming, but definitely the cropped style jackets, the cropped cardigans. So if you find them, pick them up. This is also another thing that you could easily DIY. If you find like a denim jacket, just cut the bottom part of it off and there you go. You got a cropped denim jacket. Speaking of jackets, let's just get into the list of jacket trends. So first we have shearling, fuzzy jackets, furry jackets, anything fuzzy, anything furry, anything feathery. Even like this ostrich feather kind of 70s glam. That may be hard to find in the thrift store, but if you come across one, definitely pick it up. Faux fur making a huge comeback. There's a lot of controversy on whether that's good for the environment because it is made of plastic. I know there's a lot of controversy about owning real fur. My personal stance on that is if you find a real fur jacket or coat in the thrift store, that is okay. The damage has already been done basically, and that coat, if someone doesn't purchase it, is just going to end up in a landfill, and then that animal gave its life for absolutely nothing. So I do believe in recycling real fur and giving it a new life. That's my personal opinion. To each their own. But next we have suit coats. So this is just those very structured blazers like I was talking about, the very structured like 70s blazers and even the 80s blazers. Next we have quilted coats, and this doesn't necessarily have to be like patchwork quilt like what you would normally think of when you think of a quilt. This can just be a solid color, but it can be like the quilt stitching. Those are really popular right now, as well as floral coats and outerwear. So again, we're seeing a really big uptick in florals for fall and winter. So with that, we're seeing a lot of florals in jackets and coats and cardigans and things of that nature. Another really big trend we're seeing right now is all over leather. Now, leather and fur are one of those things that tend to come back every fall and winter because it's a warm fabric. And leather, I have the same stance on leather when it comes to real leather. If it's vintage, if you find it secondhand, if somebody doesn't buy it, it's just going to end up in a landfill, and then that was in vain. So that's my stance. Again, just my opinion. Faux leather is an option if you don't agree with real leather. But one thing specifically with the leather trend is we're seeing a lot of colorful leather. So this is like those really pretty olive green. So like this kind of color green leather, this like tan orange leather, and those like berry tones of leather. Any type of colorful leather is very on trend, and this goes for everything, for tops, for pants, for shoes, For jackets, all of the leather. Alrighty, so last on the overall trends list is mini skirts. We're seeing a lot of mini skirts, again, early 2000s, paired obviously with like tights. I haven't seen anyone pair them with leggings, but I feel in my bones that that is coming. I have a feeling. I have a feeling it's coming. Fingers crossed we just stick to the tights, please. Let's not revisit skirts and leggings, please. And then, of course, we have midi skirts. Midi and maxi skirts always tend to come back around for fall and winter just because they're a longer skirt and you can wear them with boots and tights. So on two opposite sides of the spectrum there, midi skirts and mini skirts. All right, so now that we've tackled the chunk of it, let's get down to shoes. And speaking of chunk, first on the list is chunky boots. Again, this is very reminiscent of the early 2000s. I just think of those chunky, like limited tube boots that had like the flowers on them. Was that a fever dream or was that real? Platform boots are another really big trend right now, and that is a nod to the 70s and kind of the disco era. Then we have slouchy boots. These are those like knee-high boots that have all the little wrinkles in them. They kind of look like a, oh, what is that dog called? A Sherpa dog? Is that what it's called? A Shar-Pei? Shar-Pei. No, that's High School Musical. Is that right? Anyways, slouchy boots. They look like they're falling on your leg. Then playing on the Western trend, we have cowboy boots, especially like white or metallic cowboy boots, or just anything that's like kind of funky and kind of a twist on Western wear, but obviously just regular cowboy boots as well. And also, this could be a part of the fringe trend as well. I know I have a pair of cowboy boots right now that I'm waiting to actually list. So these are a pair of boots that I have owned for a really long time. And I was going to sell them, and now I'm not sure that I want to sell them because now that I'm talking about it, I kind of love them. So maybe I'll keep them. I don't ever wear them though. They're really comfortable, and I don't know why I don't wear them. Maybe I should. Let me know down in the comments below. Should I sell these or keep them? I love them so much. And also they were my grandma's, so maybe I should keep them. I love them. I'm probably keeping them. You just saw me go through all of the stages. All right, so last but not least on our list, we have metallic boots. This is a nod to the 70s and 80s glam, that Studio 54 vibe. Love that. All right, moving on to bags. We have, again, another quilted trend. Quilted bags are a huge trend right now. Again, this is more about like the stitching and the style and not necessarily patchwork, but if you do find patchwork, even better. Then we have the fluffy teddy bear bag. I think it's Marc Jacobs who released this bag. We're seeing this again, this teddy bear trend kind of come back up. This was a really big trend a few years ago. It's starting to trickle back in. I don't know that it ever left necessarily, but it just kind of died off in popularity there for a minute, but now it's starting to make a comeback, especially in bags. The next trends are two extremes, kind of like the midi skirt and the mini skirt. We have the oversized bag and the tiny bag. So oversized bags, the slouchy kind of oversized bag was very popular in the early 2000s, but also in the early 2000s, the tiny micro bags were a huge trend. So two extremes. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, the early 2000s was just a bunch of extremes. A bunch of extremes. What was happening? No wonder us 90s kids turned out the way we did. I say all that to say, keep an eye out for two sides of the spectrum, the oversized bag and the micro Y2K bag. Speaking of small bags, we have the coin purse style bag. Now this is exactly what you think it is. It's the bags that kind of just look like oversized coin purses. They look like little pouches, but they have the little pop clip on the top. I don't know what that's called, and I need to know what it's called. Somebody let me know down in the comments below. And that leads me to chain straps. A lot of these purses have chain straps on them, but chain straps in general on any type of bag are very popular right now. You see chain straps a lot on quilted bags, especially like Chanel style bags. And last but not least, we have woven bags. Now you can interpret this any way that you want. It's knit bags, it's crochet bags. That yellow backpack that you guys saw me pick up in in my last video has sold already. That was a 90s crochet bag. Whew, alrighty, we are nearing the end of our journey. It's been a long one. Let's end on accessories. I only have 2 accessory trends. There's not really a whole lot of accessory trends going on, but the 2 main ones that I saw were head scarves. I always pick up scarves, especially vintage ones, because they just make good add-ons. You can literally use them for anything. You can wear them in your hair, on your ponytail, you can wear it around your neck, you can tie it to your bag. We're mainly seeing them being used as headscarves though, so keep an eye out for those, especially the vintage ones. I definitely recommend the vintage ones. You can find so many beautiful vintage scarves, and a lot of them are silk too, so keep an eye out for that. And the last trend that I have for you guys is long gloves, especially long leather gloves. I don't know where this is coming from. It's very Victorian, it's very royal, it's very tea, you know what I mean? I don't know where this trend came from. It kind of blindsided me and I was like, is that real? Is that a trend? But I'm seeing it everywhere. It's these like elbow to the elbow gloves in leather or just any material, but I've seen especially in leather. So not sure how accessible these are going to be at the thrift store, but if you do come across them, apparently they're on trend, so pick them up. Alrighty, so that does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, sorry it's so late, but I did want to go ahead and do it because a few of you guys did ask for it, and I kind of didn't want to skip it. It's one of those traditions for me on this channel. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite fashion trends are for fall and winter, which ones you will be participating in, and if I missed any, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below so we can learn from you as well. And of course, if you like this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up on your way out. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and join our family. We would love to have you. I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.